You get 5 points if you miss.
Does that include the 5 points?
All right. All right, let's ride this.
So, I don't get 100.
Okay, so with the cover crops, we talked about that they're gonna give you a nitrogen credit. So this is extremely important, maybe because we don't wanna pay that much money for our nitrogen. And so, we'll typically either plant a legume or a cereal. And obviously legumes are going to have more nitrogen credit because legumes are capable of fixing atmospheric nitrogen. The cereals are going to actually scavenge that nitrogen that's left over in the soil. We would not intentionally apply more nitrogen to grow our cereal crops. It just doesn't make sense to apply fertilizer on something that's just gonna take that fertilizer up. And sometimes we'll do like a 50-50 mix. So pretty much the N% of that cover crop biomass, we're gonna multiply times 50%. So 50% of that is plant available nitrogen, or will become plant available nitrogen. And so what are those two forms? What are the two available forms of nitrogen? Ammonium and nitrate. So 50% of what is in this plant is going to become available to the plants. So if we have a cover crop that has 4,000 pounds per acre of dry matter at 3% nitrogen, how much nitrogen is available in this plant? So we take 4,000 times 3.5% divided by 100, so this is going to be a decimal. This ends up being 0.035 times 0.5, because half of what's there is going to be plant available. And that gives us 70. Following, Laurel? All right, so then from that, you should be able to complete the table. Because you're just gonna, did you need this?
Everything in this end column, everything is considered a 50-50, or 50% plant available.
Correct. Right? Not difficult math. And so you should be able to complete the table. That one, yep. I know, super tricky.
Is this paper from lab?
Somewhat. This is tying all of these concepts together. The goal here is to see that if I plant a cover crop, I can save money. That is the goal of this exercise. If I plant a cover crop, I can save money because I don't have to apply as much nitrogen.
And soil.
What's that? And the soil as well.
Is this on calculation 4, or
Yep.
is this just?
I'm leading you up to calculation 4, step by step. There is no trick. Repetition. And when you see it, you're gonna go, oh. Y'all finish this up. That is the exact same. All right, y'all finish these up. All right, so we took the biomass times the percent nitrogen times 0.5% gives us the total plant available nitrogen. I feel like, is this the first one that we did? All right, so we have sorghum Sudan grass that weighed about 8,200 pounds. We multiplied times our percentage and times our 0.5, and we got 66. Did everyone get 66 point, or close enough to it, right? There's round off. Yeah.
Why are some red?
Because I had asked students to fill in just a couple of them rather than do the whole table. But these students have also had my class before, so they've done this, you know, they've done the math. Everyone get fairly close? Cool, simple, straightforward math. All right, so now what do we do with these numbers? Well, if you got a nitrogen credit, and let's just take our top one, our sorghum Sudan grass, and if you needed to apply 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre, how many pounds of nitrogen do you need to apply now? You what? If you need to apply 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre, and you planted this cover crop, now how many pounds of nitrogen do you need to apply? Times 66.31 divided by? This is a nitrogen credit.
It's 134-ish.
134.
That's how much credit is there that
This goes back into the soil after you kill it. So if you need 200 pounds and you've got 66 already, how many pounds do you need to apply? 200 minus the credit, right? That's why this part is important, so I'm trying to tie those concepts together, because if you do take crops and sustainable systems next semester with me, this is literally sustainable. All right, so what happens if you do this over the course of 3 years? What if you plant this cover crop, this one specifically, the sorghum Sudan grass, over 3 years and you get a 66-pound credit back? How many years would it take before you don't need to apply nitrogen? At 200 pounds per acre.
Also growing crops those 3 years?
Let's not try and get too complicated with that. If we get a 66-pound credit every year,
It'd take almost 4 years.
it would take almost 4 years of growing this cover crop so that we don't need fertilizer. Does everyone see how I'm doing that? Well, I'm just doing a very broad thing, right? Because there's obviously more that goes into it. Because we're going to apply fertilizer. There's already some nitrogen that's in the soil, plus this 66% credit that we got. And then now we've got less nitrogen that we need to apply. But if we get a 66-pound credit, then we don't need to buy as much fertilizer. And so that's what the calculation is going to do. Calculate the credit, subtract the credit from the recommendation, calculate how much fertilizer you now need. It's completely different, because if we need 200 pounds per acre.
Do you want the ones I got?
Yes, please. Apparently those markers work the best. All right, so if we need 200 pounds of N per acre using a 4600, what's 200 divided by 0.46?
434.78.
How about 435 pounds of N? All right, what did we say that this credit was? 134 pounds of N. Do 134 divided by 0.46. $291. Let's just keep the math simple. If nitrogen costs $1 a pound, that's the one we want to go with, right? Because we don't have to apply that. We don't have to apply this much fertilizer. If you do that consistently over time, eventually you'll get to the point that you don't really have to apply any nitrogen. What's that? You're caught up, or you're at least that's available to the plant, and you don't have to apply as much fertilizer, right? So this is sustainable over time, like you're actually putting something back rather than just taking something out. Is that making sense? Everyone following that? And you can do this in any cropping system. Yeah, what you got, Drew?
I think your phone might have stopped recording.
I think you turned it off when you went to the papers.
I thought I turned it back on.
It did again.
It's still recording.
It's still recording.
Okay.
Good thing is I can video edit most of that stuff out.
Probably a dumb question. Where'd you get the 134 from?
So we got a 66-pound credit, right? Let's just keep the decimals out of it.
I got
We
it.
got a credit of 66 pounds.
Mhm.
So 200 minus 66 is 134.
So you're just gonna use what the credits left instead of the full 200.
Instead of the full 200, correct. And so you can do this over time, and if you get a 66-pound credit every year, it takes you about 3 years before you finally don't have to apply any fertilizer. Again, this is broad, but the concept is still there. The thing about sustainability that no one likes is that it takes time. Time takes time. Just like graduate. I was just in the office. Hold on. I was just in the office and I heard a student saying that she was gonna wait and not take 20 hours a semester and get good grades. So here's the thing. Good, cheap, fast. Good and fast isn't cheap. Fast and cheap isn't good. And good and cheap isn't fast.
It's a restaurant valuation right there.
That's exactly what it is, right? But it can apply to just about or tattoos. Or tattoos, right? Because you wouldn't want to get good and fast. If you want to get a 6-hour tattoo in 4 hours and it be good, that guy's going to upcharge, right? It's typically like $125, $150 an hour. It might be $2. And fast and cheap from Tom Joe down the road, not going to be good. And then good and cheap is not going to be fast. And so our education system, at least for Tennessee Tech, is we want to provide a good education, relatively inexpensive. I'm not saying it's cheap, I'm saying it's relatively inexpensive. And you cannot get that in 3 years. Because the quality will not be good. Because all you're doing is checking boxes. Right? So when people ask me, like, if you had advice for freshmen, like, where are you going so fast? Getting out of here in 3.5 years does what? Do you think the quality is going to be very good?
Gonna burn you out is what
It's gonna burn you out is what it's gonna do. And so I feel like as students and teachers and everybody in life, this is like Natras's life lesson. Where are you going so fast? What are you really trying to get towards? So there was a quote that one of my professors typically had those little quotes at the bottom, these little cool things. Mine is like, it's not that I'm so smart, I just stick with the problems a little bit longer. One of my colleagues, his was, it's something that's by like David Henry Thoreau, and it's something about the ants are busy, but what are they really about? What are they really busy doing? Like, we're all so busy, but what are we really doing? We're just being busy for the sake of being busy, aren't we? Just to say that we're busy. But what are we busy doing? But I bet you if we didn't have as much stuff to do, we would be better at getting to the goal. So I'm probably gonna watch this video so I can take my own advice, because I'm constantly trying to do all of this stuff and I'm busy. And that's how it comes out. Like, I've been working on this grant recently. Y'all know, like, when you get the mustard in the refrigerator, it still feels like there's some weight in it. And nothing comes out of it. That's how our brains are right now, aren't they? There's stuff in there. And when we go to try, and there's nothing that goes on the sandwich. Is what comes out. And so they tell you that we need more mustard. And you're like, I don't have any more mustard. I am done. I am spent. It's time to get a new mustard jar. So just a couple of things to think about. Like, what are you really trying to, what does getting out of here early do? It just stresses you out.
Money.
What's that?
Make money.
To make money? So you get to make a little bit more money a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
Any of y'all ever played the game Life?
Yeah. I'm doing it right now.
Not that one, not that game Life, like the actual board game Life. In the end, is it really better to go to college or is it better to start working? They really end up about the same, don't they?
You still end up in that crappy little retirement home.
Exactly, just to end up in that crappy little retirement home
Yeah.
with a car full of kids and the little pegs moving around the board. So, like, I don't know, just some things to think about that I didn't think about when I was your age. That, what are you really going towards? And is it better to be good, or is it better to be fast? I'd rather have the quantity. I'd rather have the quality than the quantity. That's why I beat these calculations into your head. You'll use these more than you will any of the other stuff, where we start getting into the intricacies of, okay, well, now we've got this plant takes out this much, and we start like doing a mass balance of that. It's pointless for this particular class. We'll do that in another one. All right, so you should be able to complete the calculation practice, and it ties all of these concepts together. What's up, Chloe?